The Hulk is often portrayed as this big, stupid guy who is stupid and dumb and big and strong and dumb. This is accentuated by the distinct contrast between Bruce Banner's elevated intelligence and the Hulk's comparative lack of it. To challenge this narrative set to repeat over and over again in each of the characters' appearances, Greg Pak took a simple concept and utilized it to tackle a question not yet asked by the Hulk's previous authors. What would happen if Banner was taken out of the equation? I found a copy of Pak's Planet Hulk in Florida State University's itty-bitty whittle graphic novel corner. It caught my eye, one, because half of the graphic novels there were manga, and the last manga I had to read for class was about furries, and I didn't want to go down that path again. Two, because every other superhero comic there was either super old and cheesy, or a part of an insanely long run of issues. And three, I remember this being the inspiration of a lot of what was used in Thor Ragnarok. I knew this because I had watched so many critiques of Thor Love and Thunder simply to perpetuate my own pessimism that I ended up learning that Hulk's entire character was misrepresented from the moment Taika Waititi touched it. The same goes for Korg, who was anything but the comedic relief in the comic. Meek isn't either, at least after he is traumatized to the extent that he just scowls the rest of the time and wants to kill everything. Yeah, these guys are these guys in the comics. More on that later. For now, let's look at why this concept even existed for Lord Waititi to erode in the first place. The idea of a Gladiator-esque plotline involving the Green Giant, no, not that one, though that would have been sick, came from Marvel Comics' then editor-in-chief Joe Quesada. He brought it up to Greg Pak and let him do whatever he wanted with it. That's when Planet Hulk was born. Now, the decisions that Pak made with this comic had almost nothing to do with the time period. One notable thing that also happened in 2006 was the release of the Nintendo Wii, but I can only think of one game that could have inspired this, and it came out 2 years after Planet Hulk finished its run. Also, 2006 was the year Pluto was declared a dwarf planet by NASA, and I am sad to say that Hulk didn't use this run to even attempt to destroy NASA headquarters for being so incredibly wrong about that. So, what does happen in Planet Hulk? Planet Hulk starts with Hulk being transported to an empty planet by the Illuminati, so he can live in peace and isolation and not kill people anymore. Naturally, Hulk is like, "That makes me mad," and he just destroys the ship. I didn't really get why this happened. I know he thinks they're trying to kill him, but I think having some context at all would really help me out with understanding why the story even happens. Anyway, Hulk gets sucked into a portal and arrives at Sakaar. The people there put this device on him that makes him obligated to serve the Red King, who is this guy who thinks he's the Jesus of this planet, but goes about it in the complete wrong way. The Red King has enslaved most of the population, and the main way for people to earn their freedom is by surviving in his arena long enough. But that doesn't really even happen, because at that point he wants to kill you himself. Hulk has to partake in these arena fights unless he wants to die, which he, can't even do even if he wanted to, so I guess everyone else there is just kind of screwed right off the bat. But then there's this challenge where the 7 gladiators who survive get to survive. And from there, Hulk has his ragtag group of allies who he barely talks to, except Korg and Meek, and probably doesn't care if they die. But they really want to be his friend, because he's strong and can protect them. Until one dies. And then they really, really care and use that death to be like, "Hey, we should all pledge to stick together and protect each other because this guy freaking died." Kind of not the best way to go about making friends, but sometimes you gotta do what you gotta do. Also, Korg had to kill his brother in the arena. You hear that, Taika? He killed his brother, and you made him into this dope. How could I stay mad at you, Taika? Look at that face! The only other really important plot points that happen in the story, and won't really be a spoiler, is that Hulk tries to free everyone, though probably just so he can rule them, and is said to be the actual Jesus of the planet. You remember the Red King? Yeah, there's these prophecies about the Sakaar Sin and Worldbreaker. The Sakaar Sin will bring Sakaar together, and the Worldbreaker, well, he'll break the world. Very creative, Greg. The Red King says he's the Sakaar Sin, but since Hulk's blood made plants grow, they say that he is the Sakaar Sin. But Hulk is like, "I just punch stuff and things happen. I'm not Jesus." But everyone else is thinking, this guy is definitely Jesus. The biggest issue that I had with this story is that some of the characters are really cool, but don't really amount to much. This is especially the case with Eloy, who was set up to have this incredible arc where she joins the rebellion and helps her people, but she ends up just sort of being there. It also happens with Heroin the Shamed, an exiled priest who witnesses every one of his kind die. He ends up serving as the guy who stands next to Korg. Something I did like to see was the creativity behind the use of gutter space. Every page looks completely different in terms of how the panels are arranged. Sometimes they leak into each other, sometimes they're drastically divided, and other times you don't really know what to look at first because so much is happening at once. I was able to feel the exact pacing and energy that the artists were going for. The onomatopoeias are also executed very well. I would sometimes catch myself hearing those sounds in my head without necessarily having to think about what I was reading. Aside from that, most of the dialogue boxes are relatively bland and don't offer that much diversity. There's the thinking boxes and the talking boxes. Not really much else. This story is kinda sad. Families die, people lose their purpose, and Hulk doesn't really have anything stable in his life. He keeps battling with this idea of how everyone and everything around him can be killed so easily, and sometimes he can't prevent it. He would rather just die with them. You can tell by the end of the book that he's sort of used to this, but still affected by it nonetheless. It's great to see the Hulk portrayed in this way. By not having Banner lead the discussion of who the Hulk is, Hulk gets to speak for himself. You get the Hulk, not Banner perspective of everything, which I haven't seen anywhere outside of this. Maybe a little in Ragnarok, but I don't know if I could even look at that movie the same after reading this. Why can't Meek say anything? He's literally the best character in the source material, and you simplify him into a bug that could walk on 2 legs. We could have gotten this super cool character arc, but no, he's just a CGI gag. But yeah, the Hulk gets to show his true colors here. He cares about people, he doesn't like being called a monster, and he feels a heavy weight of responsibility. He also wants to kill a lot of people, which is shown in the best part of the book, Hulk's dream sequence. In this, he battles Bruce Banner and kills all of the Illuminati out of anger. He views himself as a victim of being bullied and belittled by the rest of the Avengers and Bruce himself. By the end of this issue, you realize that Hulk's anger is entirely based off of his environment and the things that happened to him. It isn't a constantly internalized feeling, Mr. Ruffalo. In fact, for a lot of this comic, he's basically just chillin'. What I'm trying to get at, I guess, is that this is a unique look at the Hulk and how he sees the world around him. I enjoy the MCU Hulk, but the way Planet Hulk looks at him holds more respect for him as a character rather than simply as Bruce Banner's angry monster side. I personally enjoyed reading this run of comics, but even my range of expertise has its limits. I barely have any prior experience with Marvel Comics, the Hulk especially, so my takeaway from Planet Hulk was essentially, it's pretty good, I had fun. Yet, other more comic-savvy people out there don't exactly share that sentiment. Daniel Boyd of BigGlasgowComicPage.com left a review of this run, stating that the entire plot feels incredibly detached from the Marvel Universe to the point that I found it quite hard to care about any danger or peril that the characters were faced with. It also doesn't help that the one character we follow that we do know is probably the hardest Avenger to relate to, since he is a hulking green monster that rarely says more than one-word sentences. He goes on to mention that he had read the comic before and enjoyed it, but revisiting it as an adult deteriorated his vision of it. One argument I agree with Boyd on is that Hulk does seem randomly articulate in the series. He is typically a character of very few words, but Planet Hulk depicts him as capable of more complex speech, especially towards the end. In September of 2010, some comic enthusiast named Darren posted an analysis and short review of Planet Hulk on themovieblog.com. He wrote, "Being honest, the Swords and Sandals epic isn't necessarily my cup of tea. I know a lot of fans prefer this sort of straightforward Hulk story, but I do prefer a hint of complexity. I'm more interested in Banner than in Hulk, to be frank. In fairness, Pack tells the story well, but he can't hide the fact that it's really not an exceptionally deep one. I personally haven't read anything that exhibits Banner's character outside of this story, so I can't say much about our friend Darren's point there. I can respect his opinion, but I do think the way Hulk was handled was complex enough for him to serve as a valid protagonist. Darren essentially thinks that Planet Hulk was executed well on Pack's part, but was so simplistic and a little out of the blue for the character that it didn't really warrant taking Hulk into space and having him participate in that larger, more complex side of Marvel. Both Boyd and Darren think that this run's quality is mostly found in its setup to the following one, World War Hulk. Apparently that one is better. Again, I can't really speak on that. I think that Planet Hulk exemplifies how a lot of these dual persona characters have a side that overpowers the other. The way Batman and Bruce Wayne are handled is often balanced in a great way, and people love to see it because it shows that duality. This is less the case with Superman and Clark Kent because they're both goody two-shoes, but there's still the divide between who they could show themselves as. With the Hulk, there aren't that many attempts to highlight the actual Hulk side of the character. In the MCU, Bruce is the Hulk, and the Hulk is just a big version of Bruce that is angry. You can see this in the newer films, where the Hulk and Banner have apparently come to an agreement, but I guess Hulk was screwed over because it's literally just Bruce now, but as a big green guy. Planet Hulk gave us the opportunity to actually explore the Hulk himself. Hulk is in charge of Banner now. It's important to look at because if we didn't get this version of the character, we probably would think Hulk is just what he is in the MCU, Bruce being angry. This comic shows Hulk as a completely different character in person than Bruce. I thought that was great to see. I am now of the opinion that Bruce as the sole spokesperson of who the Hulk is just us hearing Bruce complaining that he's not normal. It's like doing the whole Bruce is sad because he can turn into the Hulk and he doesn't want to live because of that thing is sort of overdone and the easy way out at this point. This isn't to say that the MCU model of Bruce Banner is wrong in any way, I just think that they could have showcased more of the Hulk. Even in Ragnarok, Bruce ended up being more important than Hulk because you empathize with him about not being able to be Bruce ever again, which was completely derailed because we had to bring Bruce back and have the Venom-style arguments between him and Hulk for Infinity War. Overall, I think Planet Hulk is worth visiting if you want a better look at Hulk as a character. Some people don't really view this run as a canon personality for him, but I think it's at the least an interesting take on the guy. I also think it helped a lot with amplifying my negative perception of Thor: Love and Thunder. If you're also looking to dislike that movie even more, I give these comics a good read.